Hello and welcome back to the Aussie Football Passport. Yes, we are back right in time for the World Cup and to preview it all. I am joined by the Brisbane Football Review lads, specifically Adam and Scott. Adam, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, Alex. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very excited for this World Cup, as I'm sure you are as well, Scott.
Very much looking forward to the international festivals around. Well, it's always a great month, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I think we get a couple of weeks extra because of the expanded 48 team tournament, which the jury's still out on, but we haven't experienced it yet. So let's see what this extended World Cup throws us. I'm sure there'll be plenty of upsets and storylines that we'll be bringing you over the next 6 weeks or so. Now, Adam, I might get you to plug the wonderful Brisbane Football Review podcast, please.
Yep, absolutely. And you can find us on Facebook on the Raw Review or Brisbane Football Review. You can find us also on Twix at BNE Football, Instagram and Threads, Brisbane Football Review, all lowercase. You can drop us an email, Brisbane Football Review at gmail.com. And you can find us on all good podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yeah, so make sure you get around. The boys that do wonderful coverage of the local game in Queensland in the NPL around the Brisbane area, and of course Brisbane Raw when the A-League season is on, both men's and women's coverage as well. So you won't miss a thing if you're interested in Queensland football. So make sure you go give them a like, a subscribe, and all that kind of wonderful stuff. All right, now on to the matter at hand. This episode, so we're going to look at the friendlies against Mexico and Switzerland because we did try and record one last week, but technology failed me. So wonderful. Anyway, let's not go there. What we learnt about the squad over those two games, and of course, the 26-man squad that Tony Popovic selected. And then we're going to preview the game against Turkey. And I'm going to put the lads on the spot, although now you're going to have a bit of thinking time as to who is going to be your World Cup winner. Anyway, let's get into the friendlies. Let's start with the 1-0 loss to Mexico first. And Scott, I might throw to you. What are your thoughts on this game? And I guess what did we learn about the squad?
I think the first thing we learned about that game is how the squad performs in a proper World Cup environment. Think back to that game in the Rose Bowl, 70,000 screaming Mexicans. If there was any doubt in this young Australian side, and it is a very young Australian squad going to this World Cup, what the experience and the atmosphere would be like, well, it hit them square in the face in that game. And look, it was a decent performance in that game. Defensively, they were pretty solid. Offensively, not creating enough in the game to actually go and really trouble Mexico enough. But I think the one thing that would be the frustration for Tony Popovich would be conceding off of a set piece, and that's something that he would pride himself on getting that sort of thing right. So that attention to detail would probably frustrate him. But on the whole, it was a decent first up hit out. And again, you have to remember these games are about trying very particular scenarios, not necessarily winning this game. It's about preparing for the games coming up. So don't read too much into the result, more on the way the game played and how certain scenarios played out.
Yeah, there's some good points there, and I think that sort of gets lost a lot when the friendlies are reviewed or analysed, if you like. The point that I guess the coaches are trying different scenarios, different combinations, building combinations between players. But you're right, I think the frustration will stem largely from the fact that the Socceroos conceded a set piece goal. Tony Popovic, of course, being a central defender back in his day as a player. And I guess, Adam, does that sort of, conceding the set piece, do you think that that might alter the way Tony Popovic goes? I guess we'll get into that later, but I just want to get your thoughts on that whilst we're discussing the Mexico game.
Look, I just think it might be just a case of the defenders have switched off a little bit. It's again, it was the only crack in otherwise a pretty decent performance defensively. So look, those things happen. It was sort of midway through the first half when it did happen. So it just might be a case of switching off. Maybe Mexico, so just throwing in a variant on a play that they didn't sort of see coming and reacting too slowly. But other than that, again, it was a solid hit out. Look, I agree with Scott. The fact is that, offensively, it didn't really show much there, but I also think that that really did sway well, that squad going from 30 to 26 because I think it's no, anyone that was on the bubble certainly didn't did do enough to warrant sort of a late inclusion.
Yeah, that's right. It's very interesting. I guess that sort of throws to my next point around the starting 11 because it changed completely for the Switzerland game, I should say, and particularly it was very experimental. We saw every single outfield player get minutes in that game. So I guess, Scott, do you think there was anyone, and the result was 1-1. Do you think there was anyone that pushed their case to start in that game against Turkey in the first group game?
I think if there was an argument that Aaron Kunda and Volpato weren't necessarily right to play together, I think those two show they can certainly combine. They would certainly press their case very strongly indeed. I thought Tete Yengi was okay and showed he can perform a role off the bench. I don't expect him to be starting in the game against Turkey, certainly not in that game, but he could play a role off of the bench. The other interesting thing is he made a lot of changes at the back. And you look at the way that game panned out, the way Switzerland scored their goal and created another chance right on half time. It was a on ball. They had the ball on Australia's left hand side, switched it to the right, and got through that way. So I do wonder if Tony Popovich will look at that and look at the back line and think, is that back three of Sutar, Shakati, and Harrington the right back three to go with? Because they did get through that way a couple of times. So I do wonder about that. But if a players who press their case in a positive sense, for mine it would be Aaron Konda and Volpato.
Yeah, I'd tend to agree, and I think particularly Aaron Kunda, the the discourse or the chat mostly has been that Aaron Kunda is expected to be an impact player, but I just think the quality he has to start personally, but I can see it probably going the other way, unfortunately. But I guess we can get into that a little bit further in the chat once we talk about the squad. But Adam, I guess to pick up Scott's point around the defense and um, someone who definitely pushed their case and was crucial in the goal that Australia scored was Cameron Burgess. So the debate really is Cameron Burgess versus Lucas Harrington and who gets that left-sided centre back spot. I'm going to put you on the spot, Adam. Who would you go with out of those two?
Oh, geez, it actually is hard because I said it's almost head versus heart almost. But look, I do tend to agree that putting bias aside, I actually think Cameron Burgess actually did show something as far as being part of that back three alongside Harry Sutar and Alessandro Ciccardi. That's no disrespect whatsoever to Lucas Harrington. He is going to have, if he keeps on the form trajectory he's on, he's got plenty of World Cups to star in. So I don't think it's the here and now. I thought when Cameron Burgess came on the second half, that really did solidify. What also I did think as well is that the experiment about Kai Truan playing the fullback I thought was a bit of a failure. I thought a couple of
Mm,
times that he got exposed badly in that, and then probably also as well was maybe a bit of 50-50 be exposed by a bit of Lucas Harrington's experience, but still, but when when so to say Kai Truan did switch into midfield, I thought he played much better. So I'm certainly not saying Kai Truan doesn't deserve potentially a spot in the starting side. I just don't think it's a fullback role. I think Jacob Italiano really did really did sort of press his case to be the starting right back. And then look, take your pick between Aziz Behich and Geordie Boss. I actually think there's might be scope to play both of them. You play Behich at that traditional left back role, and you push Geordie Boss forward. I think so. There are plenty of options, but yeah, I do certainly think that in the original question, Cam Burgess at least deserves to stay against Turkey.
yeah, yeah. I think you summed it up quite well there, Adam. I don't think I've got anything else to add if I'm quite honest. So, I guess the conversation too, it very much looks like the starting 11 from the Mexico game is the one that'll most likely be the one that's played against Turkey. Maybe one or two adjustments might be Lucas Harrington coming out for Cameron Burgess and potentially Nesri Kunda in for, you'd probably say, Lecky. I think Metcalf is a Tony Popovich favourite, let's say. Uh, that could change, of course, but, I guess another point I want to bring up is, the slow starts. It's a bit of a concern for me, and to be honest, Switzerland punished us with the early goal there. Scott, do you think like what does Tony Popovich have to do to the boys? I mean, it seems like after the drinks breaks that are quite annoying, but are needed in some of the locations in Northern America over this summer. There, it seems like once he gets a hold of the boys after that 22-minute mark, they just seem to switch into another gear or actually feel more comfortable. So, like, how does he address that? Do you think?
I think he's got to get them to have belief and confidence in themselves. It is a very young Australian group here, and a lot of them have never played at this level. And when you can, it's only natural when you're building up for your first World Cup. They're all thinking they want to play in that game against Turkey, and the nerves are going to be there. It's just getting them to calm down, relax, and believe in themselves. And it feels like the longer these games go on, that is the case. And I completely agree. That is one of the big concerns going into this World Cup for Australia is these slow starts they've had against Mexico and against Switzerland. So they've got to find a way to bring what they have from that 25 minutes on from the first whistle. Because if they do bring the nervous energy from the start, it could be like that game again, the first group stage game in 2014, where they got jumped very early on in the game. And it became very difficult. So you need to actually start off really strongly in these games and put yourself on the front
Mm.
foot. And to me, it's not so much trying to rev the players up. It's more getting to calm down and believe in yourself that you do belong here. It is a young group, but they do belong here. And that's the thing you got to really sell to the playing group.
Yeah, definitely. And that game was against Chile, I believe, in Brazil,
I
because
think
it
they were
was
2-0 down
Chile.
inside 20 odd minutes, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, and there was really no coming back from that, even though the performance itself probably didn't warrant it, but you're right. It's that slow start, and it can be such, you know, it's such a game of fine margins, particularly at the World Cup, and when you've got teams that are at a similar level to us, so they've really got to capitalize on that. And I guess probably a positive to come out of that Switzerland game was that Tete Yengi got his goal on debut, and I guess the goal itself, the Ken Burgess ball forwards into Metcalf, and then the cut across goal to Tete Yengi. Do you think that's a bit of a blueprint, Adam, on how we might attack uh, in the three pool games?
I think it's one way to go, especially. Again, I do agree with what saying before that I don't look at Tete as a starting striker as far as negating that slow start. I actually think I was talked about Nestor Ranakunda. I thought a week ago that that he is definitely an impact player, but he made a believer out of me, and in his with his performance against Switzerland, and I don't think you're better off having him start, cause all sorts of chaos early. And then, if you bring on a foil like a Tete or a Mo Toure or someone like that, I think that might be the way to sort of to negate that start if those slow starts. But look, I think for the boy, it's confidence. He actually had to do a bit as well. That ball from Connor Metcalf, that wasn't the easiest cross. You had to stretch a little bit. He actually did well not to blow that. I think I've seen players are probably a lot more accomplished. Absolutely blow a chance like that, just the lack of composure. So I think that's one of the good things. But I certainly think he's got a role to play. I just don't know if it's starting, especially, and I sort of hope Popovich doesn't start so negatively as part and play a 5-4-1 or that they did really at least if anything it's a 5-4-1 in defence, but in attack push to a three at front.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably the one of the concerns we've had. And I mean, look, Tony Popovich, his sides are always renowned for defensive solidity, but when you've got the attacking talent that we've got, like as we've said, Aaron Kunda, Mo Toure, both in red hot form, playing, championship. I know it's not Premier League, but they're playing every 3 or 4 days, and they're having an impact on their club side. They can have that same impact at international level. You can't tell me they're not. Geordie Boss, I think, wow, what a player we've got there, and we need to utilize him down the left as well. That's really key for me, and I'm sure you both agree with that. But let's discuss the squad in general. Of course, that was named after the Mexico friendly, and we got a late SOS call from, well, should I say, Christian Volpato may have got a late SOS call with the injury to Riley McGree in the championship, which we were just talking about. Of course, Spygate having a role to play there. Riley McGree wasn't actually playing, then he was, and then he picked up that hamstring injury, which he carried into the game, apparently, according to reports. But Christian Volpato, such a divisive figure, but we've seen him play 45 minutes now. We've seen him actually discuss his, you know, I guess his decision to play for the Socceroos now. Scott, I guess, what are your thoughts now, putting into that context, I guess, of seeing him in the green and gold and that first half against Switzerland? Is the selection a good one?
Well, firstly, on the performance against Switzerland, I thought he did pretty well. And it is the right decision to have him in this squad because you look at it, once he made himself available, he is clearly in our best 26 players available. So that part of it takes care of itself. His performance against Switzerland, I thought, was decent. Again, you've got to remember, he's been in camp for 4 or 5 days with these players, still building up those combinations. And the way he combined very early on with players in that midfield and front third, I thought was highly encouraging and something you can see building over the next couple of weeks and had some very nice touches in and around the midfield area. So I do think there's certainly a player there that Australia can build around. I thought it was a decent first up start. I know it wasn't the flash sensational thing that everyone was hoping we would see first off. Hopefully we see that later on in the World Cup itself. But I do think it was a decent first up hit out from his perspective. And on his decision, I did see one little clip from his interview saying he was brought up as an Italian and Australian, and those two things meant equal measure to him. So I do understand it was a very difficult decision for him, but now that he has made that, we can look forward to him being in the Australian side for the next 10 years or so. So that's really encouraging. The problem is, Alex, we're only halfway through this issue with the Italian national team versus Socceroos, aren't we? We've still got the issue of Gianluca Ocon, who is just won a junior tournament with Italy, and then you've got Antonio Arena, who was one of the breakout stars in the Serie A this year. So that's going to be a future problem for Australia, but at least we've won this one, and maybe it will lead to more wins down the road against the Italians. But between that and the issue with Segic and Croatia, this issue, we all were hoping that this dual nationality problem was going to go away after Volpato made his decision. Unfortunately, I think that part of it's going to rumble on for longer, but I do think he will be a big part of this team, though, looking at this World Cup. I think he's going to clearly play a part. And if Tony Popovich can find a way to get Volpato, Metcalf, and Kunda all on the field at the same time, I feel like that combination could be really devastating in terms of creativity in the front third for Australia with Mo Toure feeding off of that. So if there's any way that he can just loosen the shackles and get that creative three behind Mo Toure, that'd be nice to see.
It would be, wouldn't it? I think we'd all be licking our lips to see a formation, maybe a 4-2-3-1 where you put those three in behind Mo Toure. Wow, that would be quite scary. No more layups for the USA with that, I would say. Um, Now, just going back to Volpato, I guess, he also had 8 or 9 days off before taking the call up. So, Tony Popovich has talked about his conditioning not being up to scratch, which is completely understandable considering, over a week ago he wasn't going to World Cup and then all of a sudden he is. So there's that. But Adam, I think another point that impressed me with him is his dead ball delivery. We saw a wonderful free kick that he delivered right onto Harry Sutar's forehead, which I mean isn't too hard to do considering the size of the lad, but it gave him a wonderful opportunity, and it's another route to goal for us. So I guess Adam, do you think that's important as well? And given the context that Riley McGree is injured and would have been a left-footed set piece taker for us.
Oh, absolutely. I think I agree with Scott that yeah, and even before, while it was a divisive issue after he did get called up, that I think it was the right choice. Yeah, Christian Volpato, he played 1,300 minutes in Serie A, and while it's not the Serie A of the 80s and 90s, it's still, in my opinion, I think a lot of people's opinion, still a top 5 league in the world. You have a player like that, if he's Australian eligible, you pick him if he chooses to. And look, this whole stuff about again about dual nationality and he'd be dreamed to play for Zuri and all that. Look, I challenge anyone that is of that origin or that they didn't dream of playing for one of the top nations before they dreamed for playing for Australia. It's only in the last decade that Australia has actually become a destination as far as that. And look, don't kid yourself. You think, oh, that a Mark Viduka didn't dream of always playing for Socceroos. That he would have played for Croatia potentially. But again, he thank God he chose Australia. I'd even go as far as say Harry Kewell may have dreamed of playing for England. It just wasn't fashionable when you know those guys were growing up to represent Australia, and that's a credit to the brand that the Socceroos now at least is upon par with the choices playing for Italy. So I think there's a lot of discourse, but I think it's more behind us now. I think majority of people now have accepted he's playing for Australia, and you've got to get behind him. But just to your point about the free kick specialists as well. There was a moment in the Germany versus USA friendly the other day. The opening goal, which Kai Havertz basically strolled in unmarked to head home the opening goal. I have flashes of Christian Volpato finding Harry Sutar and doing that to the USA in Seattle in a couple of weeks' time. So certainly, if they can get that right, it is a very, very good weapon, and the way that the dead balls specialists that they have in Australia, having that height, having a Chikati, having a Sutar. If you have a free kick taker that can hit those heads, look, it's a very, very big weapon for Australia because that's the one thing Australia does have. It is height in set pieces.
Alex, strike that from the tape. We can't have Adam bursting the layup bubble that the US are building around themselves
I
over
know.
there.
Yeah, sorry, we'll edit that out. No worries. Thanks for that flagging that, Scott. We don't want to give them any ammo. We've got enough from them. So,
There's no
My,
but
more
my,
room on our
my,
bulletin board for any more ammunition. We've still got 2 weeks to go. We can't handle any more.
my
yeah,
visions
that's
aren't
right.
always correct, so one can dream, as they say.
Well, that's right. You're 100% right with that one. Look, I'll round out the dual nationality thing. I actually saw a podcast with Marco Bresciano last week, I believe,
Mm.
and he talked about the Volpato thing, and he said he actually had Giovanni Trapattoni ring him and ask him if he wanted to play for Italy.
Yeah.
So, and you got to remember too, Volpato's 22 years of age. I don't know about you lads. When I was 22, I thought I was invincible and, would go and do some rather silly things. So, you have to forgive Christian. I've cooled quite a lot over the last week, if you couldn't tell. I was a bit
Mm.
heated up
Yeah.
about it, mainly because Segacic went to Croatia and we
Mm.
lost him because I think he's another
We haven't
quality
lost him
player.
yet. We
Huh.
haven't lost
You're right.
Segic yet. He hasn't played yet. That's probably going to come up in the Nations League. But to your
Mm.
point, Volpato was also asked at 17 or 18 years of age to make a decision as well. If you can't make a decision at 22, and I agree with you, you certainly can't make one at 17 or 18. So that part of it, looking back in hindsight, it certainly does make sense. So either way,
Yeah.
we're here now, and unfortunately, this issue is not going to go away because everyone's looking for dual national players.
Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, we've got 2 wins against Italy with Cercati and Volpato. Let's hope we can get another couple with Arena and Ocon, John of the Gianluca variety. However, lads, I will get you. I guess Adam, I might get you to start. Lucas
Yep.
Harrington, if you can give us a bit of an insight into him and this rapid rise. I mean, you got to see him in the flesh week in, week out, playing for Brisbane Roar over the last 18 months.
Yeah, look, Lucas Harrington, it is a fantastic story. And look, Scott and I both covering the local game here. We saw Lucas Harrington's 16-year-old debut in the NPL. We knew that he was special then. We actually also had the privilege of seeing his brother Diesel in the group before that as well. We thought he was pretty decent as well, but Lucas is just we always felt that he was going to be a special player. Look, you've got not that we're in the business all time of giving credit, but look, you got to give credit to Ruben Zakovic because he stood there at the season launch 2 years ago and said that Lucas Harrington was the best young defender in the league, and he had not even made his senior A League debut yet. So that was a big call. And even Lucas, in a recent times an interview, actually said that that those comments actually is a lot to what drove him. And look, he was fantastic for the Raw. But I do actually think the only sort of downside I do have is that I think Colorado Rapids got maybe the steal of the century in terms of the transfer market. Whatever they paid the Raw is about a tenth of what it should have been, even between the time that the deal was signed and waiting for Lucas to turn 18, and then when he actually finally made the move to Colorado. He and his day is just going to go up and up and up. He has been fantastic playing for Colorado. He's played every game since his move there. Has taken on some of the best uh, players in the world in that time as well. Including one Lionel Messi. Uh, so he is a fantastic story. And like I said, we did mention before, does he start against Turkey? Look, maybe not. But as I said, he's also 18 years old and he's got plenty of World Cups to come. So even sitting one out just for tactical and for form reasons is certainly not going to be the end of him.
No, you're right. That's well said, Adam. And I guess, Scott, have you got anything else you want to add on Lucas Harrington?
No, just quickly on the Ruben Dakovic thing, everyone was kind of skeptical when he said that, but it was proven very much to be the case. So he waited till round eight to play him. He didn't make his professional debut until the 14th of December 2024, and now, 18 months later, he's in the Socceroos squad and a real chance of playing in the first game against Turkey. And I think back to March this year when Tony Popovich brought him into that camp for the FIFA series against Curacao in Sydney and Melbourne. He brought him in thinking, I'll have him in the squad. He's a good young player to keep an eye on. And they had that really big training session there on the Wednesday, I think it was. And it was at that point, Tony Popovich went, oh, no, no, he's not just a squad player. This kid can play in my team right now. And was really, really bullish on what he could bring to the team. And I think it surprised Tony Popovich how advanced he was at that age. And of course, he played in both of those two games and hasn't missed a starting 11 since, which is probably a good sign for him that he may very well play a part in this World Cup. So his rise has been certainly one to watch, and we're very excited to see what he can do over the next few years in Colorado and probably heading to Europe in the not too distant future as well. But for the Socceroos, he looks like he is going to be a staple at the back alongside Ali Chakati for years to come.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, Tony Popovich doesn't really signal out too many players for single out too many players, I should say, for the kind of praise he's given Lucas Harrington. And I think the added weight for me is the fact that Tony Popovich is a former Socceroo and a centre back playing in his position. So he knows what he's talking about. He's been around the traps for a while. He was involved with the Crystal Palace coaching staff, played in the Premier League. Like, he's got chops and he's rating this kid. So yeah, I think sky's the limit for Lucas Harrington. Fingers crossed for him. He's got his part to play in this World Cup, but I think hopefully plenty more caps and involvements, as you said, Scott, alongside Ali Chikati in the future. So now we're what, 6 days out from the first game of the World Cup, well, Socceroos' first game of the World Cup against Turkey. And I wanted to talk a little bit about them and preview that game. So, uh, the friendlies that they've played two friendlies. They had a 4-0 win against North Macedonia, who their coach Vincenzo Montella said was they were basically handpicked to replicate the style of play Australia had. So let's hope that they don't do that to us. That would be rather nice. And they also had a come from behind 2-1 win over Venezuela. Arda Gula set up both goals in that one, and he looks like he's the star man, doesn't he, Adam, for that Turkey side?
Yeah, Arda he certainly is the star of Turkey, and look, that whole midfield, in fact, they are going to be we're going to be a very, very big threat to the Socceroos, and this is where the game will be won or lost. Is that if somehow the Socceroos can nullify star midfielder of Turkey, they're half a chance of at least getting something out of this. But yeah, Gula, also as well, Kadigoglu and Kalhanoglu as well. I think that three will certainly lead the way. I think that on the other hand, it's one thing to have a great midfield, but their attack, or at least recognised central striker, is probably maybe the Achilles heel for them. There's certainly no Hassan Hakasuka
Mm.
in of times past in that side. Maybe there is a star amongst it, or we haven't seen yet for them. But certainly the midfield is where this game we won and lost for Socceroos versus Turkey.
Yeah, definitely, and, I guess there's a few other stars as well. Kenan Yildiz of
Mhm.
Juventus fame is a
Mhm.
wonderful player. However, there is an injury cloud around him, along with Ferdi Kadioglu, who, of course, plays his club football for Brighton. They're both undergoing intense treatment, according to reports, to be fit for the Socceroos game. It's probably unlikely we see Yildiz. Kadioglu was available for the friendly against Venezuela, which was their latest one over the weekend, but Montella did not play him, just not to risk him. So I guess, Scott, for you, there are a couple other injury concerns too. Kalanoglu and Aturkoglu. I think I've got that right. I hope they've both returned to full training. So, do you think that might disrupt Turkey and their preparations for the Socceroos game?
I don't think it will actually. I think if Yildiz is not there, I think they'll find a way to cover that. I think the rest of them will probably all be available for that first game. So I don't think there'll be too many injury concerns there. Although whether they can run out a full 90 minutes or they have to bring some of those players off the bench will be an interesting one. But they should all be available to play some part in the game. I think it'll be a very intriguing game. They are a very experienced side, actually, if you look at who they have on paper. They just don't have any World Cup experience. It's crazy to think what they did in 2002, and they haven't been back to the World Cup since. But they've got such a strong squad, haven't they? And the team they're going to bring to this tournament, they are a team that a lot of people are looking at outside of Australia as a team that could be a real dark horse to go quite deep in this tournament. So be intriguing to see how they do go first. Getting them first up I think could be really fascinating because it can go either way. It's their first World Cup game in 24 years. So do they bring in a bunch of nerves or do they bring that excitement to really explode back onto the national stage? It could be a very intriguing one, but I just find it really interesting that when at this time of tournaments, when teams are saying we're picking an opponent specifically to play against Australia, and it's always intriguing to see how other teams view us. They in terms of what sort of style of play and what sort of nationality represents us best in terms of an opponent. So I always find that quite interesting. But I think this game's going to be really intriguing and it could very well be decisive in how this group pans out, actually, because if there's a winner in this game, it could end up being that team definitely gets out of the group.
Yeah, that's some really good points. And just to go about the friendlies before this World Cup, it seems like every team has like methodically prepared with a team that's similar to ones that they'll face in their group, right? Which I've found fascinating. I've really
So we
loved that.
think Switzerland is Turkey, basically.
Yeah, well, I
Mm.
mean, their coach is of Turkish heritage, so, I mean, what more can you say? I don't think stylistically, though, it's that I think it's a little bit different. Well, particularly formation-wise, I think Turkey play 4 at the back of more of a 4-3-3 system, I believe, whereas Switzerland played a similar system to us, the 3-4-2-1, so that's quite interesting, but, yeah, I guess the other point is around Turkey. Yeah, what are they going to bring? Are they going to be nervous? Are they going to implode, or are they just going to burst onto the scene? We really don't know, and that's why, as you said, the first game's always the most intriguing, and a result in this one, it gives you a springboard or a platform to then go on. Because the other thing that we haven't discussed is third place teams can qualify. The best third place teams. I think it was is it 8 of the 12 third place teams will go through. So that's another factor. So, does that mean teams are going to shut up shop early, or are they going to do things a little bit differently that they wouldn't do at other World Cups? Probably the case, you would say. But I'm very much looking forward to this. This Turkey side is red hot, and I think they're, as you said, they're a dark horse to go quite deep in this tournament. But it all more or less has to begin with this game against us in the group stage. So what they can do, let's find out, I guess. And Adam, do you what are your thoughts on Turkey?
Oh, look, I do think they're a formidable opposition. Their world ranking very does not reflect where they really are. I think they're coming to this 41st or something like that, which is ridiculous. That they are much better than that. What I do find fascinating as well is that it seems like it's all in a way slightly tailor made for the Socceroos because you mentioned that Kenan Yildiz is injured. It seems to be that all three of Australia's group opponents have got star players that are in doubt. Chris
Mm,
Richards is in doubt for the USA. They're very tough captain and defender, and also Julian Ciso for Paraguay,
yeah.
who I think he will miss the World Cup, which is a shame because he is a hell of a player. So look, let's just hope it's not hard to think of something to come, and Australia lose a vital player on the eve, but or during while this first game, but certainly as well. I do think that uh, it'll be. I think both teams will be playing not to lose in this open game. I do say the same about USA and Paraguay as well, because I do think that the four teams are relatively similar, sort of in strength and capabilities. 5 points might be enough to win. Might be enough to win the group. So might be more of a case of let's not lose rather than risk opening yourself up and potentially losing try to chase a win.
On that
Yeah.
point, Alex, winning this group is imperative, isn't it? Because if you can win this group, you stay on the West Coast all the way through as far as you progress. Whereas
Mm,
if you finish second or third, you start to venture more back towards the middle of the United States. So if you can win the group, you basically stay in the same time zone, same climate. It's a massive advantage. Obviously, it's a host nation advantage, but if you're able to
Mm.
finish top of the group, whoever one of these four teams does it, that's a massive advantage just to stay where you are basically as long as you progress.
it's another really good point. Yeah. Yeah. So you really want to be gunning for it. Obviously, USA, the pressure's on them, and they're almost expected to, well, go through at the very least in this group, considering, and with all the trash talking they've been doing, it's more or less a given according to them. But we'll let them talk about that. That's fine. Paraguay, I guess, are an interesting prospect as well. I think you could probably say they're in a similar playing style to us, very defensive, but have some wonderful creative players, as you said, in Ciso, if he's fit, hopefully he is for Paraguay's sake. But then you've got Diego Gomez, another Brighton player, and you've got, I think I'm missing someone else there. Oh, Miguel Almiron, of course, of Newcastle fame, former Newcastle fame, but he's now an MLS player, so he knows the conditions quite well there in Northern America. So very interesting. But yeah, injury clouds over all of our pool opponents. So that's quite interesting. So I guess, Scott, I might put you on the spot. Do Australia get through the pool?
Yeah. I think we can get through this group. I think it's a case where I think everybody will win a game and everybody will lose a game. And I think it's going to be so tight. So we're going to come down to the very final games and those simultaneous kickoffs in this group. I think it'll be very interesting. But I think Australia will get out of the group. I've got them getting out in second place.
Oh, okay. All right. And Adam, what about for you?
So do I. I think second place. But I do agree. It's going to come down to the final group games. I think Paraguay are the one to miss out. Like, Enciso is a huge loss for them. He is their quarterback. He is their orchestrator. Him missing really sort of, I think, and it's those fine margins. I do think that
Mhm.
Turkey will win the group. Just I do
Okay.
think USA will finish third in that, but they will progress.
Yeah, okay, interesting, interesting. So, yeah, and I should also mention Diego Gomez had a bit of an injury, towards the end of the Premier League season, so what his level of fitness is probably a little bit unknown as well. So, yeah, for me, I do think that Australia will get through. Of course, a bit of bias where they
Mm.
go through, it's probably either second or third. I don't see them topping the group. I think it's Turkey is to win, just given the quality of their team all across the pitch.
I said the US
USA,
stumbling into the first place in the group somehow by some sheer
they
luck.
could,
I had them stumbling into first place,
Yeah,
but
it is possible.
it could
Yeah.
go genuinely either way.
yeah, it really could. I think USA are either going to crash and burn in the group stage, or they're going to get through somehow. But I don't think it's going to be pretty. I just don't see it, particularly with Richards. If he's not fit, he's so key to their defensive unit. If he's out, yeah, they're in big trouble, I think, personally, particularly, yeah, in that defense. As you said earlier, Adam, that goal
You're
that
not reading
Havertz
the book.
scored.
This is a layup and it's a home run. It's a
Yeah.
touchdown. It's everything.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, home run, all that garbage. But yeah, anyway, we'll let them keep talking. We'll let them keep talking. Now,
Yeah.
Adam, I'm going to put you, well, I was going to say put you on the spot. We did this pre-show. We went through the predictor that Scott so kindly got us. So, Adam, who's your World Cup winner?
Yes, I did. I did the predictor, and ran a couple of runs. The first one didn't turn out very realistic. Let's put it that way. But
Yes, it didn't.
the predictor, the one that I'm running with for the record as well, is I actually do think, even without I thought would be the case, and I do have Spain winning. Uh, I actually in the I had a final four of just bring it up now. Spain defeating Portugal in the final.
Oh,
And
yep.
then the semi-finalists, Brazil beating Mexico in
Oh,
fourth place. So that was a shock as well. Some notables just as far as sort of in the knockouts as well. I think we're planning to post these all on one of our social media so you can have listeners can have a bit of a laugh. Uh, Socceroos go out in the round 32, losing to Egypt.
okay.
Our good friends England go out in the round of 16. They beat Iraq in the round 32, and then Mexico towel them up in Mexico City. So
Oh, okay.
that and where's that? Argentina, the defending champions, they go out to Portugal in the quarterfinals on penalties. So that's a sum of the results as well. USA, just quickly, where we have them. Yeah, USA go
Holding
out
the
in the round of
trophy.
16. Yeah,
Uh,
they went out in the round of 16 as well.
oh, okay. Interesting. Some interesting predictions, but probably not surprising with Spain winning it. But what about Scott? Have you got any surprises for us in your prediction?
Couple. I'll save my winner till the end.
Yeah.
In the group order, I had USA, Australia, Paraguay, and then Turkey was my order for the group. In terms of our friends across the
Mm.
Dutch, I've got them finishing third in Group G and just missing
Cool.
out as one of the teams who don't get through. And I also had the same fate for Graham Arnold Iraq. So unfortunately, I don't have either of
Mm.
those getting through to
Yeah.
the knockouts. Australia, I think they will beat Egypt in the round of 32, and then they will
Ooh.
lose to Lionel Messi's Argentina once again in the round of 16. Ironically, I had the exact same score, Argentina 2, Australia 1. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. But that's where I had it. Adam mentioned our good friends in England. I know it's not coming home. They're going to lose to Spain in the round of 16. So it's going to be leaving England once again. My final four, I have Spain defeating Germany in one semi-final, Brazil defeating Argentina in the other. In fact, I actually have Messi v Ronaldo in the quarterfinal as well. So that'll be quite entertaining as well. But
Cool,
my
cool.
final is Spain 3, Brazil 2. That's my prediction. I think Argentina will finish third. But Spain to become a two-time world champion for me.
Okay,
I left
interesting.
it till the end because it was the same as Adam, so I just wanted to
Yeah.
break it up a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for that, Scott. I appreciate that. So yeah, interesting that we basically all have the same final, but I'll get to my final
Well,
and
that means it's
what that
definitely not
is.
going to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Free spins ain't happening.
Yeah, where's the octopus? What was his name again? Fred
Actually,
the
Uh,
before you
octopus?
go, I'm looking at James's prediction as well. He
No.
also has the same final as well. So
Okay, there we
well,
go. Yeah, very interesting. It just seems to be the way that the draws worked out, hasn't
yeah.
it? So yeah, Australia's fate. I had us getting through to round the 32, but we were matched up with Senegal, and Senegal beat us. In fact, Senegal go all the way through to the semi-finals. I'm predicting that they're going to do the Morocco. I just that Senegal team is very strong and probably a little bit slept on, in my opinion. I think same fate for you guys with England knocked out by Spain in the round of 16, but a tasty matchup in the quarterfinal between Spain and Mexico. But Spain get over them on that side of the draw. And then on the other side of the draw, Brazil go through. They recreate that. Was it the quarterfinal from 4 years ago when Croatia beat them? I have them beating Croatia this time. And then that lines up with a game against Portugal. But before that, Ronaldo beats Messi in the quarterfinal. Portugal beating Argentina there. Brazil versus Portugal. I've got Brazil beating Portugal and the Brazil Spain final, but I've got Brazil winning it. Don Ancelotti at it again, masterclass, this time doing it on the world stage. bit of a gamble because Brazil's backline is a bit
Mm.
worrying, if you think about it, but I just think Ancelotti will get the best out of Vinny Jr., and that will do enough to get Brazil that trophy yet again.
Bold
You've
picking
made
Italian in a tournament they haven't even qualified for.
Sorry?
Bold picking Italian in a tournament they haven't even qualified for.
I know. What Italy would do for a coach like Ancelotti. I mean, even he probably couldn't fix them though, to be fair. They're that broken. But yeah, I just think Ancelotti's incredible and he'll work his magic with that Brazil team. It
I know
just needs something. It just needs something, and I think it's Ancelotti.
you've
Like
made a couple of
2002, isn't it? That just everyone's writing them off. They're a team you got to keep an eye on. Sorry, Adam.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've made a number of Brazilian friends of mine very, very happy, even though they don't believe in it. So,
Wow.
look,
Okay, there you go.
yeah, no, they do think that they still haven't recovered from 2014. So, when Germany pretty much murdered modern Brazilian football, so they still haven't recovered.
Yeah, that's probably pretty fair thing to say too, because they just haven't looked the same. But I think there's still the quality there, and I think Ancelotti's the guy that can get it out of them. But let's see if any of these bold predictions come true. They probably won't, and it'll be some left field team perhaps, or USA if you want to believe everything that's coming out of their country. Anyway, lads, thank you very much for joining me for the first episode of this World Cup coverage. And we'll be back every week after the Socceroos games to wrap them up and give them to you on a platter, our analysis. And hopefully we'll be doing this for many, many weeks as the Socceroos get deeper and deeper into the tournament, across everything. I think it's a very exciting Socceroos side. Hopefully we can get the shackles off and we can get some 3 points to get us deeper and deeper into that tournament. Adam, one more time, I'll get you to plug the Brisbane Football Review, please.
Yep, you can find us on Facebook, The Raw Review of Brisbane Football Review, on Twix at BNE Football, Instagram and Threads, Brisbane Football Review. Drop us an email, Brisbane Football Review at gmail.com, and you can find us on podcast platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Thank you very much, Adam. All right, that's it. And thank you very much, Scott and Adam. Really appreciate it. Up the Socceroos, and let's hope we can get something out of the Turkey game.